Hi, and welcome back. We've given you a big picture overview of R and RStudio. Now we'll turn our focus to the actual programming and coding you'll do using RStudio. I went pretty far in my career not knowing programming before it became clear I needed to learn it. Getting to know R was such a valuable learning experience. It took some time, and I reached out to more experienced R users with lots of questions. And eventually, it all came together for me. Being open to learning new skills is such an important part of your career. And now, I'm able to help you learn some new skills too. I'll start by sharing the fundamentals of programming using R in RStudio. Earlier, we explained how R is like the engine of a car, and RStudio is like the accelerator, steering wheel, and dashboard all in one. You've come a long way since the fundamentals beginning of your learning journey. Your R car Congratulations on your accomplishment. These fundamentals
Just think
are
of
both
all the
alike
skills you've learned along
and
the way.
different from the
You
other
now know
analysis
how to
platforms. Use structured thinking to define a problem and ask the right questions. Then we'll move into coding in RStudio. Databases and tools like SQL
discuss
to
the
organize and
syntax for
transform
performing
data,
calculations,
clean your data to make sure it has integrity before you analyze it. Create impactful visuals to illustrate known as a pipe, and craft a compelling story to communicate insights to stakeholders. To work with. That's an impressive list of skills. Then, but we're not done yet. Packages. Your skill set's about to get even bigger. Won't be delivered to your door. In this course, they are learn about a new concept called programming. These packages and how you can use the R programming and more to analyze your data. Built by users. By now, for users, you know that the data analysis process we'll get to know a collection of packages called the Tidyverse. Prepare. You'll learn how to install the Tidyverse. Analyze. So you can start using it in RStudio. Now, we'll also learn all about the more popular Tidyverse package and how it can help you in each phase for visualization. When you're done, able to carry over what you've learned about RStudio to the case study will give you the chance to solve a data analysis problem using all the skills you've learned in this program. For this program, you'll find out more about this in-browser version of RStudio. Okay, let's talk about computer programming. But RStudio is also available to giving instructions to a computer. Let's get going to perform an action or set of actions. You can use different programming languages to write these instructions. Anytime you're learning a new skill, you might choose a specific language driving based on the project you want to pursue. You should always start with the problem you want to solve. Programming with R programming is no different. Is super useful to build this organizing, cleaning, and analyzing data. Basic concepts. If this is your first experience with computer programming, comments, welcome. Variables. When I first started learning about data analysis and pipes, I didn't have a background in programming. Some of these terms might sound familiar. In fact, before I fell in love with data, we've come across I was trained as an opera singer and SQL. I also have a lot of friends that came into this field from the arts are a body and learned about programming later in their career. Used to perform R is a great place to start in R. Learning R for the first time can be challenging names, like even more empowering. And a lot of the skills you've learned in this program will help you learn basic programming concepts. An argument, take it is one step at a time, function and go at your own pace in order to run. And just like in previous videos, here's a simple function. You'll start with the basics and feel free to join in and try it yourself. You've tackled tough challenges before using your cloud and you always come out on top. Check out the reading for more details on how to get started. Let me introduce myself. My name's Carrie. Pause the video anytime you need to. I work as a research manager at Google. We'll open RStudio Cloud. I lead a team that researches the best way to improve in the performance of people with the function name print. In other words, function name I help return work whatever we include in the values and help organizations function in a healthy and productive way. Followed by first learned R as a junior data analyst while I was working on a multi-year automatically pop up virtual because RStudio recognizes we were looking at data on people's virtual work we just have to add the text and trying to understand how working remotely in R impacts performance. It was a complex project with a lot of data to sift through. Success. I kept encountering the code returns the word and searching for better and faster ways to do things. If you want to find out more about this is when I became aware of the power of R. All you have Whenever to do I got is stuck, a question I'd learn a little more about R and a set of discover a solution to my problem. I soon realized that R can help me do almost anything, which helps you learn more about even the functions better and faster than I thought possible. Keep in mind that functions are case sensitive. There are tons of great online resources for R, with a capital P and a super supportive online community. An error message. If I had a question, I'd go online and find the answer. Functions As the project progressed, I was able
it can
to
be
learn
pretty
more and
time-consuming to type
and become
out
a
lots
much
of
more
values.
effective data analyst.
To save time,
My teammates even started coming to me for advice about R.
This lets us
Realizing
call out
that I
the
could
values
continue to learn
anytime
my
we
skills
need
at
to
any
with
stage
just a
in my
variable.
career was an empowering experience.
We learned about variables in
Learning R
SQL.
unlocked my ability to
variable
perform data
is a
analysis
representation
at the
of a
highest
value
level.
in R.
In your future
that can be
career as a
stored
data
for use
analyst,
later
you'll
during
have the
programming.
opportunity to continually
Variables
learn
can
and
grow.
also be called
To
objects.
me, that might be one of the
As a
coolest
data
aspects of the
analyst,
job.
you'll find
And
variables
learning R
are
is one of the
very
most
useful
rewarding
when
parts
programming.
of that growth process.
For example, I'm
If
still
you
learning
want to
new ways
filter
to
a
use
data
R
set,
all the time.
just assign
Plus,
a variable
you can
to the
apply these
functions
skills
you
to other
use to
programming
filter the
languages,
data. Like
That
Python,
way,
all you
Julia
have to do
or
is
JavaScript.
use that variable.
There's
to
no
filter the
limit
data
to how
later.
far you can go with programming.
When naming a variable
It even
in
goes
R,
beyond data analysis.
you can use a short phrase.
After I learned R,
a variable name
I found
should
myself
start
thinking
with
about
a letter
all kinds of projects I could
and
use
can
programming
also
for,
contain numbers
both
and
at work
underscores.
and for fun.
So the
It
variable
opens up a whole new
5
world of
penguin
possibilities.
wouldn't work
Now,
well because it starts
let's talk
with a
about
number.
what you're about to learn.
Also, just
We'll
like
start off
functions,
with an introduction
variable
to
names are
programming
case
languages.
sensitive.
Then,
Using
we'll
all
take a
lowercase
closer look
letters
at R
is good
itself
practice
and
whenever
explore
possible.
its main
Now,
features and
before we
functions.
get to coding a variable,
We'll also cover some
let's
basic
add a
programming
comment.
concepts.
Comments are
and
helpful
learn how to use them
when you want to
effectively in
describe
R.
or explain
Next,
what's going on
we'll
in your
learn
code.
how to work with data
Use them
in
as
R.
much as possible.
You'll discover how
so
R
that
can
you
supercharge
and
your data
everyone
analysis
can understand
skills
the reasoning behind
and let
it.
you clean,
Comments
transform,
should be used to make an
visualize,
R
and
script
report data
more readable.
in new and more
A comment
powerful
shouldn't
ways.
be treated as code.
Learning R will
so
help
we'll
you
put a
take your data
hashtag in
analysis
front
to
of
the
it.
next level.
Then we'll
It'll
add our
also
comment.
look great on your resume.
Here's an example of a
R
variable.
is widely recognized as a key
Now,
credential
let's go
in
ahead with
entry-level
our
job
example.
positions.
It makes sense
Knowing
to use
how
a
to use
variable
R
name
will
to
give you a
connect to
big
what the
boost
variable
in your
is
job hunt
representing.
and will help you
So
stand
we'll
out
type
as a
the
new
variable
analyst.
name first.
Coming up,
underscore.
we'll talk more
variable.
about programming languages in general
Then,
and how they can
after
help
the
you
variable
analyze
name,
your data.
We'll type a
After
less
that,
than sign.
we'll jump
followed
right
by a
into R.
dash.
Before you
This
know
is
it,
the
you'll be using
assignment
R to
operator.
power your
It
data
assigns the
analysis.
value to the variable. It looks like an arrow, which makes sense.
When I first learned
since
R,
it's pointing
it was the
from
visuals
the
that
value
really got me hooked.
to the variable.
I still think it's so cool
There are other
that you
assignment
can write a little bit
operators
of
that
code,
work too.
press a button,
But it's always
and
good to
presto,
stick with just
out
one
pops
type
an
in your
awesome
code.
data visualization.
Next, we'll add
Before
the
we
value
get into all
that
of
our
the
variable
details,
will
I
represent.
thought it would be fun to give you
We'll
a
use
quick
the
sneak
text
peek and
This
show
is
you
my
what R can
variable.
do. What follows will be
If
a
we
preview
type the
of
variable
what you're
and hit
going
run,
to learn.
It'll
By
return
the end of this
value
course,
that
you'll
the
not
variable
only
represents.
understand all
This
this
is a
code,
very basic way
you'll be
of
able
using
to
a
write and
variable.
execute it as well.
You'll learn more ways of
For
using
now,
variables
just
in your
sit back,
code soon.
relax, and enjoy
For
the
now,
show.
let's assign a variable.
Let's start by
to
loading a
different
library
data type.
and getting a data set to work with.
We'll
we can
name
use the
this
Palmer
second
Penguins
variable
dataset, which
and
contains
type our
size
assignment
measurements for
operator.
3 penguin species that
We'll
live
give
on the
it the
Palmer
numeric value
archipelago
12
in Antarctica.
0.5.
This includes data on stuff like
The
body
environment
mass,
pane
flipper
in the
length,
upper right
and
part
bill
of our
length.
workspace
The data
now
set
shows
has
both of our
344
variables
rows of
and their
information
values.
sorted into 8 columns.
There are other data types
The
in
Palmer
R,
Penguins data
like
is popular
logical,
with analysts
date,
and is great for
and
fun
date time.
exploration,
R has a
visualization,
few options
and
for
teaching
dealing
concepts.
with these data types.
We'll see more of
We'll
this data
explore them
set
later.
on in the course.
With functions, comments,
Let's say we want to
variables,
visualize the
and data
relationship
types,
between body
you've
mass
got a good
and flipper
foundation
length.
for working with R.
You may guess, the
We'll
larger the
revisit
penguin,
these
the
throughout
longer the
this
flipper.
program, and
We can
show
find
you
out for
how
sure
they're used
by creating
in
a
different
plot.
ways during
Let's
analysis.
make a scatter
Let's
plot.
finish up with two
A
more
scatter plot
fundamental
uses points
concepts.
to display the relationship
Vectors
between
and
two
pipes.
variables.
Simply put,
So,
a
the
vector
two
is a
variables
group
we're
of
going
data
to
elements
compare
of the
are
same
body
type
mass and
stored
flipper
in a
length.
sequence in R.
No need to memorize all these details
You can make
right
a
now.
vector using
You'll
the
have time
combined
to learn
function.
more about them later on.
In R, this function is just the letter C followed by the values you want in your vector inside parentheses.
Let's check out the parts of this
All right,
code
let's create
and
a vector.
how they fit together.
Imagine this
The
vector
first
is for
function
measurement
starts
data
the plot.
that we need to
If we
analyze.
run the code at this point,
We'll start our
all
code
we get is a
with
blank
the variable
plot.
VEC _1
If we
to
add some
assign
more
to
code,
the vector.
R will put labels on each axis
Then
of our
we'll
plot
type C
and add lines
and
for
the
data.
open parenthesis.
Body mass is on the
Then
y-axis.
we'll type our
and
list
flipper
of
length
numbers
is on the x-axis,
separated by commas.
but the data points are not yet visible.
We'll then close our our parentheses
To get the complete
and press
plot,
enter.
we can add some more code that tells R how to represent our data.
This time,
for
when
example,
we type our variable
we could
and
use
press enter,
points,
it returns our
bars,
vector.
or lines.
We
We'll
can use this
points
vector
to create a
anywhere
scatter
in
plot.
our analysis with only its variable name.
We can go further.
Vec_1.
For example,
We can
the
change
values in the
how
vector
looks.
will automatically
Let's change
be
the color
applied
of
to
all
our
of the
analysis
points to purple.
That brings us
You can hit
to the
the
last
up
of our
arrow
fundamentals.
to pull up the last piece of
Pipes.
code you ran.
A pipe
So
is
we'll
a
do
tool
that
in
now.
R for expressing a
And then
sequence of
we'll add
multiple
in
operations.
color equals purple.
A pipe is represented
inside
by a
geom
percentage
point.
sign, followed by a greater than sign and another percentage sign. It's used to apply the
Now,
output
we can hit
of one
enter
function
to run this.
into another function. Pipes can make your code easier to
We
read
can also
and
add new
understand.
information to the
For
plot
example,
and use
this
color to
pipe
highlight it.
filters and sorts
Let's tell
the data.
R to assign a different
Later,
color to
we'll
each
learn
species
how
of
each
penguin.
part of the
This
pipe
way,
works.
we can link data points to
So
each
there
group
they
of
are,
penguins.
the Super 6 fundamentals: functions, comments, variables,
Gen
data
2s are the
types,
largest.
vectors,
The
and
legend,
types.
just to the right of the
They
plot,
all work together
shows
as a
us that the
foundation
blue
for
points
using
refer
R.
to the Gen 2s.
It's a lot to take in.
R
so
automatically
feel free to
creates
watch
a
any
legend
of these
for the
videos
plot
again
to
if
help
you
us
need a
understand
refresher.
the color coding.
When you're ready,
R does
there's
everything
so much
you tell
more
it
to
to
know
do,
about R and
and
RStudio.
even does stuff you don't ask
So,
for.
let's get
it's
to
just
it.
that helpful. We can also use shape to highlight the different penguin
We've
species.
shown you how your work as a data analyst can be done in different ways using different tools. That's true in this program, and it'll be just as true when you start your
Or
job.
we can use both
Operations
color
and
shape.
calculations are two concepts we've checked out before. Coming up, we'll go back to them and learn
In
how
addition
to
to
use
highlighting our
operators
data,
in R
we can also
for a range of
reorganize
tasks,
it.
including
We can break our
calculations.
data down into
An
smaller
operator is one of the
groups
key
or
components
subsets
of a
and
calculation.
create a plot for each subset.
When we first talked about
Let's say
operators,
we want to focus
we
on the
defined
data
them
for
as
each species.
a symbol that names
Facet
the type of
functions
operation
let us create a separate
or
plot
calculation
for each
to be
species.
performed
Check
in
this
a
out.
formula.
Facets are so
The
great.
same is true
we
when
can
we
even
use
put
operators
text on
in
our
R
plot
code
to point to
So,
specific data.
let's check out
or
some of these
communicate a
operators
message.
in R.
Let's give our plot a
Imagine
title
we've got
to
our
clearly
hands
indicate
on
its
some
purpose.
e-commerce sales data that we need to analyze. We'll learn how to use operators to complete calculations on the sales data and for some other tasks
Finally,
too.
we can save
Throughout
our plot
our analysis,
so we can access
we'll use
or share
variables
it
that
later
R
on.
will store so that we can reference them whenever we need to. We'll use assignment
Now,
operators,
if we click on the
which
Files
we worked
tab,
with earlier.
we'll find
to
our
do
file
this.
in the list.
Assignment operators are used to assign
Let's
values
open it up.
to variables and vectors. So if we've got a bunch of sales
that's the end of the
figures
show.
that we want
I
to
hope you
include in a
enjoyed it as much
vector,
as I did.
we can
We
use
were
an
able to
assignment
take a
operator
big
to assign
data
them
set
to
and
a
quickly
variable.
visualize some significant
Here's an
patterns.
example.
These are some
Now,
of the basic
whenever we
functions
want
in
to
R.
use these sales
In other
figures,
words,
we
this is just the
type
beginning.
variable we
It's
assigned.
exciting to think of all the ways R
Next,
can help
let's
you
check out
realize the
arithmetic
full power of
operators.
data analysis.
These
As you move
operators are
forward,
used to complete
you'll learn more
math
about each of the
calculations
functions we use
and they
to
might
create
seem
our
familiar.
plots.
Plus
By the
signs
end of
do
this
addition
course,
on variables.
You'll be the one writing and
minus
executing all of
signs
this
do
code.
subtraction. We use an asterisk to perform multiplication.
Earlier,
And a
you
slash
learned that
performs
programming
division.
means giving instructions
There's other
to a computer
arithmetic
to perform an
operators, too.
action or set
But
of
these are
actions.
enough
to get you
And
started.
even if this is your first time
Let's try a
programming,
calculation
you already
for our
have
sales
plenty of
data
experience
in
telling a
RStudio.
computer what to do.
Feel free to follow
example,
along on your own
you've
as
probably
we go
used
through
a
these
spreadsheet
steps.
function to
We'll
sort your
complete
data
our work
or
in a
perform
script
calculations
to make sure our calculations
you
are
might have
saved.
used SQL to tell a computer
As an analyst
how to pull
developing
data from a
code in
database.
R,
You'll
or
spend
join
most
two
of your
different data
time in
tables.
scripts.
Programming goes
When you
even
save a
further.
script,
You'll
it
have
gives
a
you the
complete
highest
record
level
of
of your
control
work.
over your data.
You'll use the
SQL
console
can communicate
mostly
with
to show the
databases.
results of your
But
programming.
a general purpose programming
Also,
language,
even
lets
though
you
we're
create
not
your
doing
own
deep
applications
analysis here,
and build your own
it's still a
functions
good
from
idea
scratch.
to save our work
To
for
program,
easy access
you
later
first need
if
to
you
know
need
a
it.
programming language.
First, let's
in
add
this
a comment.
video, we'll learn about
After
the
the
basics of
hashtag,
programming
we'll
languages
type
and
R
how they
first
can help you work
calculations.
with your data.
We'll start by assigning
Programming
sales
languages
figures
are the words
from the first
and
two
symbols
quarters
we
of the
use
year
to write
to
instructions
variables.
for computers to follow. You can think of a programming language as a bridge that connects humans and computers and allows them to communicate. Programming languages
Before we
have
complete
their
our
own
first
set of
calculation,
rules for how these
we'll assign
words
it
and
to a
symbols
new
should
variable
be used. Called
mid-year
syntax.
_sales.
Syntax shows you how to arrange
Then
the words
we'll
and
add our
symbols
quarterly
you enter,
figures
so
using
they
the
make
plus
sense
sign
to a
as our
computer.
addition operator.
Coding is writing instructions to the computer.
Let's run it
in the
and get the
syntax
total
of,
of
a
our
specific
sales data.
programming language.
When we run
Just like
code
the
in a
variety
script,
of human languages
the return
around the world,
shows up in the
there's
console.
lots of different programming languages available to communicate with computers.
This totals now assigned
There's a language for
to
almost
the
anything you
mid-year
want to
underscore
do.
sales
From
variable.
designing websites,
We can check this
developing
by
video
typing
games,
in
to working
mid-year
with
underscore
data.
sales
For
into the
example,
console and hitting
Python
enter.
is a general purpose language language that can
You may
be
notice
used for
that
all
calculations
sorts of
in
things,
R
from working
work in a
with
similar
artificial
way to
intelligence
calculations in
to
spreadsheets
creating
and
virtual
SQL.
reality experiences.
It's helpful to make connections
JavaScript works
across
well
the
for
tools
developing
that you're
online
working
apps and is an
Let's
essential
do
part
one
of
more
web
calculation
browsers.
using our
Some
total
other popular
sales
programming
from the
languages
first two
for
quarters,
data analysis
represented
include
by
SAS,
mid-year
Scala,
underscore sales.
and Julia.
We'll multiply
Personally
it
speaking,
by 2
R is my
to
favorite
get a
language
general
for data
idea of
analysis.
total sales for the year.
But you might want to
We'll
explore
use an
other languages
asterisk
as well,
as our
while
arithmetic
programming
operator.
languages can look different on the surface. They all share
You'll
similar
find
structures
there's
and
other
coding
ways to perform
concepts.
these types of
Once
calculations.
you learn your first language,
But
you'll
these
find
are
it
great
easier to learn
examples
others.
of how the operators work.
Coming up,
both for
we'll
calculations
explore R's and
many
other
capabilities.
operations. Before that,
For now,
let's talk about
save
some
our
benefits
script
of using
so
any
that we can
programming
use these
language
same
to work
variables
with your data.
again if we need to do
I'll
more
highlight
work in our
3.
sales data.
Programming helps you
Just like
clarify
in
the
other
steps
formats,
of your analysis.
we simply click
Save
Save
time,
As
and lets
and
you
then type a
easily
file name.
reproduce and share your work. Let's start with clarity. Programming languages have specific
An
rules
R file
and
extension
guidelines
is
for giving
automatically
instructions
applied
to the
to our
computer.
file name.
When you're telling
We'll
a
close
computer
our
what to
script.
do, your
When
instructions
we're ready for
have to
more
be
sales
very
data
clear.
analysis, we
There
can
can't
open
be
it again
any
using the file
inconsistency
menu.
in the way you write code. If there is,
There are other categories
won't
of
work.
operators that you'll learn
Translating your
about
thoughts
later.
into code
But
forces you to
knowing
figure
how
out exactly
assignment and
how to
arithmetic
write each step of
operators
your
help
analysis
you program
and
calculations
how all the steps
is a good
fit
place to
together.
start.
It gives your analysis
We're
a
definitely
level of
moving
precision
forward in R
that
and
makes it really
RStudio.
powerful.
Let's keep it
Using a
rolling
programming
by
language
learning
for data
more about
analysis
pipes,
also saves
another
you
great
lots of
tool in
time.
R.
For example, take the process of cleaning and transforming your data.
Earlier, we introduced
With one line
something
of
called
code,
pipes.
you can create a separate
pipe
data set
is a tool
without
in R
any missing
that helps
values.
make your code more
With
efficient
another line
and
you can
easier
apply
to read
multiple
and
filters
understand.
on your data.
In this
This
video,
lets you spend
we'll explore
less time
pipes in
preparing
more
your
detail.
data and more time on
As
the
a quick
analysis
reminder,
itself.
a pipe is a tool
Finally,
in R for
programming
expressing
languages
a
make it
sequence
easy
of
to
multiple
reproduce your
operations.
analysis.
In other words,
Data
it
analysis
takes the
is most
output
useful
of
when
one
you can
statement
reproduce your work
and makes it
and
the
share it with other
input
people.
of the next statement.
They can double check
So
it
instead
and
of
help you
typing
solve
out
problems.
functions
Code
contained
automatically
inside
stores
other
all of the
functions,
steps of your analysis.
you can use the pipe
So
operator
you can reproduce
to do the same work.
and share your work at
In
any time in the
programming,
future.
we describe this
Weeks,
as
months,
nested.
or even years later.
Nested describes
example.
code that performs
Let's
a
say
particular
you're working on a
function
project and is
You've
contained
collected
and
within
cleaned your
code
data
that performs
and started
a
your
broader
analysis.
function.
But the results
You can
don't
think
add
of a
up.
pipe
You
as a way
suspect a
to
mistake
code
was
the
made in the
phrase
process.
and then.
You'd like to discuss the issue
Say
with
you've
a
got
teammate
sales
and get their
data,
feedback.
and you need
If
to
you
find
used
the
a
mean
spreadsheet
or average.
You both might
You
have
can
to
create a
redo
pipe
the entire
by calling up
analysis
the
to
data
discover the error.
and then
There's no
grouping
easy
the
way
data
to record
and
and reproduce
then
your steps in a
summarizing
spreadsheet.
the group data using
But
a mean
if you use
function.
a programming language,
Let's check
all
out
your
an
work
example.
can be reproduced
First,
and shared
we'll
in a
open
moment.
RStudio.
Then
Then
loading
we'll
the
start a
data
new script
to creating
so we can save our
visualizations
work.
to reporting the
We'll
results.
save it as
Plus,
tooth growth
you can easily
exploration.
update your analysis and fix any errors simply by changing the code. I hope that gives you a better understanding of what
We'll use the
programming languages
tooth growth
are
data
all
set,
about, which is
Next
already
up,
installed.
we'll check
in
out
R in more detail.
This dataset
See you
contains
soon.
data about the effect of vitamin C on the growth of teeth
So,
in guinea pigs.
what is R?
It's
R
a
is
well-known
programming
dataset
language
that'll help us
frequently
learn about
used for
how pipes
statistical
work.
analysis,
To load
visualization,
any data
and
set
other data
already
analysis.
installed,
Later
we use
on,
the data
you'll take a
function.
tour of
We
RStudio,
then add the name
which
of
is
the
a
data
popular
set.
software environment
growth.
for the R language.
In
Now
this
that the
video,
data's loaded,
we'll discuss R's
we can check
main
it out with
features
the
and
view
functions
functions and its advantages for data analysis.
Notice how view
R is
begins
super
with a capital
cool.
V.
I'm excited for you
It's
to
a
learn
good
about
reminder
it.
that functions and
R is
variables
based on
are
another
case-sensitive
programming
in R.
language named
In a script,
S.
we use the
In the
Run button
1970s,
to run our
John
code.
Chambers
The return
created S
usually
for
shows up
internal
in the
use
console,
at Bell Labs,
but with
a famous
View,
scientific research
a new
facility.
tab appears in the script
In the 1990s,
showing the contents
Ross
of the data
Ihaka
set.
and Robert Gentleman
Now,
developed
let's say
R
we
at
need
the
to
University
filter
of Auckland,
and sort
New
this
Zealand.
data to
the
organize it
title R
for
refers
analysis.
to the first names of its
Without
two
pipes,
authors.
we could do this
and
either
plays
by
on a
nesting
single letter
commands
title of its
or
predecessor,
by creating a
S.
sequence of data frames.
Since then,
we'll
R
chat
has
more
become
about data
preferred
frames soon.
programming language of
Let's start
scientists,
by filtering the data set.
statisticians, and data
Note that
analysts
we'll want
around
to
the
first
world.
install
There's
and
lots of
load
reasons
the
why
correct
people who
filter
work with
function,
data love
which
R.
comes as part of a package.
I want to share four
Installing
with Deploying a package may take a few
accessible,
moments.
data-centric,
This function
open
comes
source,
as part
and
of
has
the
an active
dplyr
community of users.
package.
First,
We'll assign a name
R is
to
an
the new
accessible
dataset,
language for beginners.
and then apply the
Lots
filter
of people
function.
without
a traditional programming language learn R. I should know I'm one of them. R really appeals to anyone who wants to solve problems that involve data. And that's
filters
one of the things
data
that's so great
so that
about
we
R.
only see rows
It's
where the
all
dose
about
of vitamin
data.
C is
R
exactly
is what's known as a data-centric
This includes
programming
both
language.
types of vitamin
It's
C used in the
specifically
study.
designed to make
Orange
data
juice,
analysis
or
easier,
OJ in our
more
data
efficient,
set,
and more
and
powerful.
ascorbic acid,
Another
or
awesome thing
VC.
about R is that it's open
Next,
source.
we'll sort it with
Open
the
source means that
arrange
the code's
function.
freely available
We'll
and may be
include the
modified
name
and
of the
shared
filtered
by the
data
people
set,
who use it.
followed by the
Let's
column
pause
name
for a moment
we want to
and
sort by.
unpack how
In
amazing
this case,
this is.
len,
First,
which stands
anyone
for
can use
length
R for
of
free.
tooth.
Second, anyone
When we
can
run
modify
this,
the code,
the return
fix
appears in the
bugs,
console.
and improve it. In fact, over the years, lots of
The data
excellent
is
programmers
arranged
have made
in ascending
improvements
order
and fixes
by
to the R
len.
code.
The
For
return
example,
only shows rows
anyone
where the
who knows
dose
the R
amount
language
is
can
0.5.
create what's called an add-on package. We'll talk more about R packages later.
So
for now,
the data's been
just know
filtered
that
and sorted
literally
based on our
thousands of
code.
R packages
Let's try
exist,
another way
and they were
to get the
all
same
built
return.
by people who wanted to
We'll
solve
use a nested
specific
function,
problems.
which is
A
a
lot of these
function
packages
that is
are
completely
super useful
contained
for data
within
analysts.
another function.
As an R user,
Here's the nested
you now
function
enjoy
for
the benefit
filtering
of the
and
shared
sorting this
knowledge.
data set.
And let me just add, the R community is the best. This vibrant, diverse, and accessible
Notice that the
community
filter
is so
function
supportive
from our
of new
previous
learners.
code is the
You can go
nested
online
function.
anytime to
With
find
nested
answers to
functions,
all your R
we
questions.
read from the inside out.
Check out websites
The code
like
filters
R
the
for
data
Data
first.
Science Online Learning
Then
Community,
it arranges or
and
sorts it.
RStudio Community.
Now, let's
on
run
top
this.
of that, our users are
We
all
tweaked
over
the
Twitter
code,
and other
but
social media.
we get the same result.
You'll discover tons of resources
Now,
for
we'll use a
professional
pipe.
networking,
As a quick
mentoring,
reminder,
and learning.
the operator
Now that we
used
know
to call
more
out
about the
a
general
pipe
benefits of
is
R,
a percentage sign,
let's talk about
followed
some
by a
specific
greater than
situations
sign
when you
and
might
another
use it for data
percentage sign.
analysis. Here's three
You can
scenarios.
also use keyboard shortcuts
Reproducing
to
your
insert
analysis,
pipe operators,
processing lots of
Control
data,
Shift
and
M
creating
for
data
PCs and
visualization.
Chromebooks, and Command
First,
Shift M
R
for
can
Macs.
save and reproduce every step
We'll
of your
start this
analysis.
pipe by assigning
Earlier,
it to a variable.
we discussed how data analysis is most useful when you can easily
Then
reproduce
we'll
your
type
work
the name of
and
the
share
data
it with
set we're
others.
pulling data from.
In R,
tooth growth.
reproducing your
We'll use
analysis
our keyboard
is as
shortcut
easy as
to
pressing
add
a
the
button
pipe
on your
operator
keyboard.
after that.
Your code stores it forever.
Now,
and you can
we
share
press
it with
Enter
anyone
to
at
go
any
to the
time.
next line.
Processing lots
RStudio
of data
automatically
is
indents
also
the
something
next
R
line,
does really well,
recognizing
just like
that it's
SQL.
part of the pipe.
As you learned earlier,
Next, we'll filter the
spreadsheets
data.
organize projects in sheets or tabs. If you've ever had to
We don't
deal
have
with
to call out
spreadsheet
the data
files
set
that
inside
have tons of
parentheses
sheets or
like we
lots
did
of data
in earlier
in each sheet,
examples, because
you know
we started
that
our
things can
pipe
start
with
to
it.
move very
The
slowly.
pipe automatically applies
Working with
the
too
data
much
set
data
to
in a
each step.
spreadsheet can even cause crashes.
All right, let's finish
R
up our
can handle
pipe on
large
a new
amounts
line
of data
with the
much
arrange
more
function
quickly
and sort the
efficiently.
data.
Finally, R can create powerful visuals and has
Since
state-of-the-art
this is our
graphic
last line of code,
capabilities.
we don't need a pipe
As
operator.
you've seen in this program,
Finally, click
tools
Run.
like spreadsheets and Tableau
And presto,
offer
we
lots
get the
of
same
options for
return as our other
visualizing your data.
methods.
R's on another
Our
level.
pipe is set up to call
With
the data
only
set,
a small bit of code,
and then
you can
filter
create
the data set,
histograms,
and
scatter
then
plots, line
sort the data
plots,
set.
and so much more.
All three methods work.
And that's just the
but
beginning.
you can see how pipes help
If
make
you
your
work with
programming
more advanced
more efficient
packages,
and less
you
cluttered.
can make some seriously
means
impressive
fewer chances
data
for mistakes
visualizations.
and better
Learning
readability
R is
for anyone
a huge
looking at your
benefit
code.
to anyone
And
interested
because
in
of the
becoming
structure
a data
of a
analyst.
pipe, we can
As I
easily
mentioned
add
earlier,
to or change
knowledge
the
of R
code
will
without
help you
having
stand
to
out
start
as a
over.
job candidate.
So let's
And
do
as
that.
you keep moving
Building
forward,
on our example,
R will help
let's
you
say
find solutions
we also
for
wanted to
more
compute the
complex data
average
problems.
tooth length, or
You can
len,
keep learning about R
for
throughout
each of
your
the two
career
supplements
as a
used
data
in the
analyst.
study.
The
Orange
sky's the
juice,
limit when it
or
comes to
OJ,
developing your data
and
analysis
ascorbic
skills.
acid, or
That's all for
VC.
now. Coming up, we'll check out
replace
the
the
RStudio
arrange
environment
function
together.
with the group by function.
Before you use
This'll
RStudio,
group our
you need
results
to
by the two
download and
supplements.
install the basic
So we type
R
sup
interface.
in the
You'll learn
parentheses
how to do
and
that
add a
in
pipe.
an upcoming reading.
We're adding a pipe
Most
this
analysts
time
who work
because
with
we
the
have
R
another
language
line of code
use
to
the
add.
RStudio environment
So
to interact
we group
with
by
R,
and
and
then
not the basic
we summarize.
Our
That's why we're
argument,
focusing on RStudio,
which comes
in this
after the
program.
function
Summarize.
Following this
looks
video,
pretty
you'll
complex,
find resources
but
for
it basically
downloading
tells
R
R what
and
to do with
RStudio
missing values
if you're interested
and to
in
make
learning
sure
more.
the data is
Bye
grouped
for
the
now.
right way when we add the summarize function. Now,
we'll run our new pipe and get the average length of tooth when the dose is equal to 0.5 for each of our supplements. Nice! Now, there's a couple of things to remember when using pipes. First, it's important to add the pipe operator at the end of each line of the piped operation, except the last one. Another group rule of thumb is to check your code after you've programmed your pipe. Remember, RStudio automatically indents lines of code that are part of a pipe. If a line in your code isn't indented, it probably hasn't been added to the pipe. That could lead to an error statement. Then, you can revisit the piped operation to check for parts of your code to fix. With the other methods we showed you, it'd be more of a challenge to find the messy parts. Another reason to use pipes when you can. Pipes, or piping, and the functions that are part of the piping process are building blocks for putting together analyses in R. In upcoming videos, you'll learn how you can use these building blocks to clean, transform, and analyze your data. For now, feel free to take your time reviewing and maybe even practicing with the functions, operations, and other elements in R and RStudio that we've already covered. I have to say, getting a package delivered to you is one of life's simple pleasures. Doesn't matter if it's a surprise package or something you ordered yourself, it's exciting to open your package to discover what's inside. No wonder those unboxing videos on YouTube are so popular. Well, R has a different kind of package that R users can open. These packages are units of reproducible R code, and they make it easier to keep track of code. They're created by members of the R community to keep track of the R functions that they write and reuse. These community members might then make the packages available to other users. It's one of the great things about being part of this community. Packages in R include reusable R functions and documentation about the functions, including how to use them. They also contain sample datasets and tests for checking your code to make sure it does what you want it to do. By default, R includes a set of packages called base R that are available to use in RStudio when you start your first programming session. There's also recommended packages that are loaded but not installed. Before using functions from one of these packages, you'd have to load it with a library command, like library boot, for example. Let's find out which packages we already have in RStudio. We'll work in our console instead of a script for now, because we're practicing and don't need to save this code for later. To check out our packages, we'll just run the command installed.packages. And there's our list. Let's focus on the package and priority columns. The package column gives the name of the package, like cluster or graphics. The priority column tells us what's needed to use functions from the package. If you come across the word base in the priority column, then the package is already installed and loaded. You can use all of the functions of that package as soon as you open RStudio. If you find the word recommended, then the package is installed but not loaded. You'll also notice a list of packages in the bottom right part of our workspace. This list includes a brief description of each package. To load class and other uninstalled packages, we'll need to use the library function, followed by the name of the package. And now, the class package has a check next to it, so it's been successfully loaded for use. If you want to learn even more about your loaded packages, you can click on their names in the Packages tab. This opens the Help tab and shows topics related to the package you selected. You can also use the Help function in your programming to call up the Help tab. While the pre-installed packages give you tons of useful functions, there's even more packages that'll further expand your programming abilities. You can find thousands of R packages just by doing an online search. One of the most commonly used sources of packages is CRAN. CRAN stands for Comprehensive R Archive Network. It's an online archive with R packages source code, manuals, and documentation. When you start working with R, you'll be able to do your own searches to find packages in CRAN or elsewhere. It's almost always easier to just search with your favorite search engine, though. So, packages are a pretty big part of using R. They give you most of what you need to complete your programming throughout the data analysis process. Who knows? You might even turn your own code into packages for others to use. Up next, we'll keep unpacking R packages. As we discussed earlier, packages are a big part of what makes R so great. Packages offer a helpful combination of code, reusable R functions, descriptive documentation, tests for checking operability, and sample datasets. And for lots of data analysts, at the top of the list of useful packages is Tidyverse. Tidyverse is actually a collection of packages in R with a common design philosophy for data manipulation, exploration, and visualization. Using Tidyverse can help you work your way through pretty much the entire data analysis process. The packages in Tidyverse work together naturally. I started learning about Tidyverse when I was working on a survey project. It felt like I was stepping into a more advanced zone of R. I understood the basics, but now I was finding out how the Tidyverse improves on the basics. That's when I got even more excited about working in R. I realized that the more I put into learning about the Tidyverse, the more I'd get out of it. On top of that, the community support for Tidyverse is strong, too. It's one of the reasons why Tidyverse is considered a key part of programming for most R users. The principles associated with Tidyverse, which you'll learn both here and at your job, have been widely adopted by the R community. You'll find lots of tutorials and examples related to the Tidyverse online that show you these principles and how they're applied to data analytics. Okay, let's install the Tidyverse. You can follow along on your own using your RStudio Cloud account. Check out the reading for more details. Earlier, you learned how to find base R packages using the function installed packages. To install packages like the Tidyverse that aren't in base R, we'll use the install packages function. As we discussed earlier, this function calls the Tidyverse and other packages from CRAN. Let's talk about why CRAN was created. Since packages not in base R are mostly made by R users, people need a reliable way to check and validate submitted code. CRAN makes sure any R content open to the public meets the required quality standards. So, if it's sourced through CRAN, you can feel good that the package is authentic and valid. Another major source of packages and other R content is GitHub. Now, we'll get back to installing the Tidyverse. We'll first type install.packages. Then, between the parentheses, we'll type Tidyverse in quotes. The quotes aren't always necessary, but best practice is to use quotes to make sure that we're accurate. We'll press Enter and wait for RStudio to install Tidyverse. When we click on our Packages tab, we come across a lot of new packages on the list. That's Tidyverse. You might have noticed that none of the packages are checked off. We need to load them first before we can use them. But that's a mighty long list, so let's just load the package named Tidyverse for now using the library function. The return shows that not only was Tidyverse loaded, but 8 other packages were too. It also shows a list of conflicts. Conflicts happen when packages have functions with the same names as other functions. Basically, the last package loaded is the one whose functions will be used, so we'll stick with the Tidyverse functions. But it's important to note that these messages only appear once. So as you get more used to R, you'll be able to figure out if you want to use certain functions over others. The loaded packages are ggplot2, tibble, tidyr, readr, per, dplyr, stringr, and forcats. These packages are the core of the Tidyverse because you'll use them in almost every analysis. All of them work together to make your data analysis smooth and efficient. With these packages, Tidyverse helps you do everything from importing and transforming data to exploring and visualizing it. We'll check out this core of packages soon, and we'll use them even more as we continue working in RStudio. If you're working on your own in R, you can check out some of the other packages too. The packages available in Tidyverse change a lot, but you can always check for updates by running tidyverse_update open parentheses and close parentheses in your console. You can then update the packages in a couple of ways. If you use the update packages function, it'll update all of your packages. That might take a while. So if you just want to update one package, you can use the install packages function again with the package name as your argument in parentheses. You should update packages regularly to make sure you've got the latest version in your code. Conflict notifications are just one type of message that can show up in the console. You might find warnings and error messages as well. A quick search using the Help tab will usually tell you what the message means and what, if anything, you'll need to do to address it. Coming up, we'll keep moving through the Tidyverse. You'll find out more about why Tidyverse is such an integral part of R. Have you ever taken a tour of a famous landmark or an unfamiliar city? It can be pretty exciting. You get to learn all about the features of the landmark or city. Eventually, you get to know them pretty well, and you can share what you learned with others. Well, we're here to take a different kind of tour, a tour of the Tidyverse. For this tour, we won't be traveling anywhere special, but we will help you learn about the exciting Tidyverse features. And once you know them a little better, you can most definitely share what you learned with others. For this tour, we'll focus on the core packages of Tidyverse we discussed earlier: ggplot2, tidyr, readr, dplyr, tibble, purr, stringr, and forcats. We also learned how to install and load them in RStudio. Once they're loaded, you won't need to do anything else with their actual packages. They'll do their thing as you program. So what is their thing? Well, it depends. But there's 4 packages that are an essential part of the workflow for data analysts: ggplot2, dplyr, tidyr, and readr. You'll most likely use these more often than the others. ggplot2 is used for data visualization, specifically plots. With ggplot2, you can create a variety of data viz by applying different visual properties to the data variables. Here's an example of ggplot2 in action. You'll have your own chance to use ggplot2 later. tidyr is a package used for data cleaning to make tidy data. We covered tidy or clean data earlier, but as a quick reminder, it's data where every part of a data table or data frame is the right type in the right place. tidyr works with wide and long data to make sure this happens. Next, we have readr, which is used for importing data. The most common function from readr is read_CSV. This will import a CSV file into R. A CSV file contains data separated by commas in a table format. To accurately read a dataset with readr, you combine the function with a column specification. The column specification describes how each column should be converted to the most appropriate data type. It's good to keep in mind this isn't usually necessary because readr will figure it out for you automatically. We'll come across readr functions as we continue to explore R. Now, on to dplyr. dplyr offers a consistent set of functions
that help you complete some common data manipulation tasks. For example, the select function picks variables based on their names, and the filter function finds cases where certain conditions are true. And yes, dplyr is another package we'll get to later. There's plenty to look forward to. So that's the Fab Four of the Tidyverse. They'll all make your programming in R more straightforward and efficient. The other 4 packages are definitely useful too, but you might not use them as often. Tibble works with data frames. Purr works with functions and vectors, helping make your code easier to write and more expressive. StringR includes functions that make it easier to work with strings. Forcats provides tools that solve common problems with factors. As a quick reminder, factors store categorical data in R, where the data values are limited and usually based on a finite group like country or year. Using the Tidyverse and its packages will help you fine-tune your analysis. And besides Tidyverse, you also learned the fundamentals of R, from variables to vectors and more. You explored the different operators in R and saw how they can help you complete calculations. You had the chance to check out pipes and how they can make your programming more efficient. And you unpacked packages to find out how they're a big part of what you can do in R. We've covered a lot of ground in just a few videos, so this might be a good time for you to do a little review. You can rewatch videos and revisit any other resources that can help you get an even better grasp of all the terms, concepts, and processes that are part of R.